Anger is a very common reaction for adults, yet it's essentially using the faults of others to punish ourselves. When anger flares up, it's like a fierce fire burning within us. Our faces turn red, our ears tingle, our words become aggressive, and sometimes we even resort to physical force. But have you noticed? Even after the emotional storm passes, the scorched marks it leaves in our souls remain, smoldering and exhausting. As written in the Avadamsaka Sutra, one thought of anger arises, 100,000 karmic obstacles unfold. This means that every time a thought of hatred arises, countless karmic banners are unfurled. Each instance of anger causes our relationships with others to become more distant, and the bonds of karmic consciousness between us deepen. The first person to suffer harm is always ourselves. We know that anger is detrimental to both physical and spiritual health, but there's a vast gap between knowing and doing if you can't look deeply into the roots of the anger within you. Today's discussion is inspired by the book Don't Be Angry Anymore. It's an incredibly gentle yet profound book. It feels like a loving whisper you can offer yourself, saying, "My dear, please don't be angry anymore." This isn't just simple self-comfort. Behind it lies a powerful, radiating light of awareness. Only when inner mindfulness opens up can we use such a gentle word to extinguish the fire of hatred smoldering in our hearts. The author of this book is the renowned Japanese Zen master, Yunusuke. He graduated from the University of Tokyo, then became a monk and abbot of a temple in the heart of Tokyo. Many people seek his guidance whenever their hearts are troubled. The Zen master often uses a Zen-style question-and-answer method to help people open their minds. He is also a talented artist. His own paintings are skillfully combined with Zen stories, helping listeners easily grasp and experience moments of truth. When we think of an abbot, we usually imagine a kind old monk, but in reality, the author is only 47 years old, with a youthful face and life experiences like any ordinary person. Japanese monks are unique. They can eat meat, drink alcohol, and even marry. Precisely because he lives amidst everyday life, Zen Master Ko deeply understands the conflicts, pressures, and smoldering fires of anger within modern individuals. We hope today's content will be helpful for you, so we can all realize that only by recognizing the roots of anger within ourselves can we embrace it with understanding and love. From there, the fire of hatred can transform into the light of mindfulness, helping us live truly happy lives. Now, let's listen. You get angry easily because your boiling point for anger is too low. When water is heated at 100 deg C at sea level, it boils quickly. But in high-altitude regions, the situation is different. Water struggles to reach 100 deg C and thus doesn't boil easily. Human temperament is similar. A person with an open mind and a broad perspective, like someone standing on a mountain of great spiritual height, will have a very high emotional boiling point. The impacts from others in life can hardly make them erupt. Their words and actions will, therefore, exude admirable composure and calmness. Conversely, those with a low emotional boiling point are like people at sea level. Their minds are bound by trivial matters and expectations of others. Just a slight trigger is enough to make them boil over and become furious. Through his observations, the author points out that people with a low anger boiling point share a common trait. They are overly sensitive to the shortcomings of others. Their anger stems from focusing too much on the mistakes and flaws of others to the point of being unable to accept that the other person isn't as they expect. For them, the threshold to ignite anger becomes incredibly fragile. Whether the other person's mistake is intentional or accidental, whether it's just an unpleasant word or a clumsy action, all can become the spark that makes the pot of emotions within them boil over and evaporate furiously. But if the stove isn't turned off in time and the water overflows, the first person to get burned is ourselves. So, what can we do to raise our boiling point and not get angry so easily? Smile and forgive, even without an apology. Many books are written about controlling angry emotions. The usual approach starts by looking at one's own behavior, but Zen Master Ko takes a different path. He advises that we first look deeply into the very shortcomings and flaws of the person who makes us angry. This isn't for us to judge or criticize them, but to ask ourselves, are those mistakes and flaws truly worth our anger? What kind of shortcomings in others make us lose our temper so easily? First, there are flaws related to competence and work performance. For example, if you are a perfectionist, you might get annoyed with people who are careless, clumsy, often fail to complete tasks, or those who are very enthusiastic but botch things up. How many times have I told you? Why is it still wrong? I've repeated it over and over. Why do you still do it like that? We might even think the other person is stupid, incompetent, and feel extremely frustrated about it. Then there are flaws related to attitude and social behavior. For example, I sent a message like this and she didn't even bother to reply. I've helped him so many times, but when I need him, he's absent. Or shortcomings stemming from laziness, lack of initiative, waiting to be prompted, arrogance, deceitfulness, stubbornness, refusing to admit fault, and even rationalizing. All these can make you angry. Finally, there are differences in habits and lifestyle. The other person is messy, spends extravagantly or is overly frugal, speaks awkwardly, or behaves without finesse. These habits go against the standards you believe are correct. You want to correct them, force them to change according to your wishes, and when they fail to do so, you get angry. You might think that the mistakes and shortcomings of others are the fuse that ignites the fire within you. But in reality, most anger doesn't originate from the mistakes themselves, but from two major obsessions within you. Zen Master Ko analyzes that people with a low emotional boiling point who get angry easily often cling to two obsessions. First, the obsession with a sense of fairness, believing that everything in life should be like a perfectly balanced scale. If I give you a kilogram, you must return 800 grams. So if someone doesn't deliver the outcome you expect, this obsession surges. You get angry, fearing a loss of balance, as if your inner world will collapse. Therefore, you feel the need to control, set correct standards, and make everything operate as desired. But the paradox is that these standards are often built upon your second obsession, self-esteem, the conviction that what I say is right, I am more important, I deserve priority, others must understand and respect me. You pursue balance, but the scale always tips in your favor. That's why the sense of fairness you're obsessed with is merely an illusion. In reality, aside from malicious intentional acts, most mistakes and flaws in people around us are usually not done intentionally to hurt you. And if a mistake is unintentional, then it's unavoidable. There's no pure gold, no perfect person. Everyone has limitations. There are things they haven't yet become aware enough to recognize. Therefore, instead of letting anger burn you, practice compassion and forgiveness. Forgive even when you don't see an apology from others. Forgiveness is never lowering yourself, nor does it mean blind indulgence. Rather, it is understanding human nature, recognizing that everyone is on a journey of learning to become a better version of themselves. When you understand that, your mind naturally calms down. And the truth is, if you can do that, the first person to be liberated is none other than you. This sounds reasonable, but it might not fully convince those with a low emotional boiling point who get angry easily. Many even feel resentment and wonder, why should I forgive when they haven't even apologized? I'm not the one who made the mistake, so why should I look at myself first? But we need to look deeper. Behind these obsessions in our minds always lurks a devil named hatred. The more we nurture the capacity for anger, the stronger this devil grows, consuming our minds. At some point, peace will become nothing more than a faint cloud, and our hearts will gradually freeze. We will no longer have enough warmth to empathize with others. At this point, we will act without empathetic logic, relying entirely on the logic of responsibility. That is, we believe that even if someone's intentions weren't bad, if they caused a negative outcome, they must bear responsibility and punishment. This punishment immediately manifests through a scowling face, sharp eyes, a high-pitched voice full of sarcasm, harsh, heavy accusations, comparisons to others, uncontrolled actions, or a cold, distant indifference and silence. These punishments are like poisoned arrows aimed directly at the person who disappointed us. However, once we play the role of punisher, we might think we are regaining fairness. But in reality, we are the ones imprisoned in the dark dungeon of hatred. Because once we judge others based on the logic of responsibility, our souls fall into an inescapable deadlock. Anger doesn't help us reclaim what we've lost. It only pulls us further away from our own peace and capacity for love. The world doesn't change because of your anger, but your heart will be hurt by it. As adults, we need to understand that absolute fairness does not exist in this world. It is an illusion. Zen Master Ko often refers to the 8 characters, Chu Han Vo Thuong En Han Tam Di Bien. This means that all things in life are impermanent, constantly changing, and the human mind also changes accordingly. Therefore, do not expect anything to be permanent or always fair. Everything can change, and nothing can always go exactly as we wish. Our task is to accept and flow with change. What we need to find is not fairness, but a point of balance even amidst uncertainty. Only then can we be free from sorrow and anger. So, where does this point of balance come from? All Buddhist scriptures state that all afflictions arise from the mind. When the mind is at peace, all things are peaceful. When the mind is agitated, all things are chaotic. Therefore, true balance does not lie outside but within our own minds. Keeping the mind still allows it to be calm, clear, and free. This is the highest wisdom. When the undercurrents of anger no longer rage within you, you will discover a gentle and clear source of energy: compassion. Because only one who has truly understood their own obsessions can genuinely empathize with the suffering of others. When you can look at the person in front of you with eyes of understanding instead of judgment, anger will gradually dissipate. Therefore, if you want peace of mind, learn to step away from the center of your own scale. Don't get caught up in the illusion of demanding fairness and the need to be carefully acknowledged and recognized. Also, don't cling stubbornly to the standards you set from that illusory scale. When you leap out of that central fortress of ego, your world will no longer be a battleground but will become harmonious, expansive, and light as clouds and sky. Facing the mistakes or shortcomings of others' things that once made you angry, they now suddenly seem small, no longer worth exhausting your energy or anyone else's. You don't need others to understand, to respond, to apologize. You can still forgive and be compassionate. You choose gentle words to express your emotions instead of erupting in anger driven by ego's obsession. And then you will realize that peace has never been something others give you, but a gift you bestow upon yourself when you learn to smile amidst things that don't go your way. Why do we get most angry with our loved ones? Another deep-seated reason why anger flares up easily often comes from those closest to us, our parents. In his book, Zen Master Ko recounts a true story about himself. One time, his parents said, "What kind of strange things do you always think about? And you even go teach others these things?" He became incredibly angry. Someone asked the Zen master, "Aren't you a monk? Aren't you a very skilled meditator? Aren't you someone who specializes in helping others resolve their suffering? Yet you get so easily enraged by just a comment from your parents." Many adults among us, just like the Zen master, often get angry with our dearest loved ones, especially our parents. Sometimes, with the same remark, if it came from someone else, we might overlook it, but when it comes from our own parents, we instantly ignite. It must be said this is a very difficult issue, so difficult that even a long-time practitioner like Zen Master Ko couldn't avoid it. But precisely because of this, we must dare to look directly into our own inner selves. Just as Zen Master Ko doesn't avoid his weaknesses, even courageously dissecting them candidly in his book, this is precisely the attitude we need to learn. Daring to look deeply into our minds to understand and resolve the anger sleeping within. Zen Master Ko states that outwardly, he was angry because he felt his parents were negating him, but the deeper reason was his inner weakness. His parents' negation felt like a direct threat to his very existence. Why is this so? No one likes to feel negated. But when that negation comes from our own parents, we are even more vulnerable. This is because, as children, we were weak and completely dependent on our parents' protection. Life back then was almost entirely dictated by them. Therefore, if a child is frequently negated, for example, often scolded, compared, or even hit, how many times have I told you? Don't you understand? You're always clumsy, messing everything up. Look at other children, they're never like you. Or if their feelings are dismissed, why are you crying? Be strong. What are you angry about? It's so silly, just a tiny thing. Such words are etched deep into a child's heart. Gradually, the child develops the feeling that their emotions and thoughts are not worth listening to, or an inferiority complex of being incompetent and helpless. Hidden deep beneath these feelings is a more primal fear. If parents negate me, then my very existence loses meaning. Growing up, simply hearing a critical or disapproving remark from parents instantly awakens those old memories of negation. That's why, even as adults more rational, and regardless of our social status or success, we still easily get angry or hurt when our parents negate our actions and feelings. Zen Master Ko advises that when we become angry due to a few words from our parents, we need to recognize that behind that anger lies a trembling, vulnerable part of our soul, still bound by an invisible string from our parents. To escape this string, we must first clearly see it. Acknowledge that today's anger comes from the echo of a child from the past, still longing for recognition and love. When we return to embrace that inner child with understanding and compassion, the anger will gradually dissipate. Gently remind yourself that your parents are also speaking from their own fears and habits. Looking broadly, sometimes when a person negates or criticizes others, they are unconsciously repeating a pattern of behavior they received from their own parents. You get angry at others' mistakes and negate them, just as your parents once negated you. And when that person hears those words, they get angry because, deep down, an old wound within them has just been touched. If we don't bravely awaken from this loop, we will forever be trapped in a vicious cycle where each person plays both the victim and the punisher of others, causing new harm to each other. But once true understanding is achieved, everything becomes light. You no longer need to defend yourself or argue. Those negating words then become mere passing breezes, powerless to stir a soul that has found inner peace. Envy is not terrifying. What is terrifying is running away from it. Finally, another reason why you easily get angry is the feeling of envy towards others. In his book, Zen Master Ko tells a story about a distressed woman who sought his help. She had a younger sister and constantly felt envious of her. When her sister scored high on an exam, she felt irritated. When her sister found a boyfriend, she offered congratulations but felt a rising discomfort inside. When her sister seemed happy, she would still say, "Congratulations," but her heart felt like it was on fire. She felt that envying her own sister was shameful and didn't know how to free herself from this feeling. Many people are bound by the thought pattern that envy is abnormal, something to be ashamed of. Therefore, when we feel envious, we get angry and try to suppress that emotion, but the more we suppress it, the larger it grows and the more it torments us. Zen Master Ko says that envy is a natural human reaction that all of us have experienced. Envy is not shameful, but it becomes terrifying when we suppress it and let it distort our souls, leading to misguided behavior. Here, the important thing is to understand why we feel discomfort when envying others, rather than trying to avoid or deny that emotion. In reality, we get angry and uncomfortable because we fall prey to the illusion that when others are happier or more successful, their value increases while ours decreases. But if we realize that the increase in someone else's value does not diminish our own, then we will no longer be drained by envy. Everyone has their own journey and capacity to shine. The happiness or success of others does not make us any smaller. It merely reflects that everyone is on their own path of development. When we turn inwards, recognize, and enhance our own value, envy will no longer be a consuming fire of hatred. Here's a small piece of advice. If you want to increase your self-worth, first, moderate unnecessary social interactions, because satisfaction derived from socializing is often a source of unhappiness. When you enjoy the feeling of receiving attention, compliments, praise from others, or many likes on social media, you can easily mistake that for your own value. If you constantly immerse yourself in this type of pleasure, the brain's pleasure centers can become desensitized, and the stimulation threshold increases. At that point, you'll need more praise, more likes, more attention than usual to feel your own worth again. If you don't receive it, you'll immediately feel empty and meaningless. And when you feel someone is better than you will suffer and be resentful due to envy. Therefore, maintaining a moderate distance from others, allowing yourself a bit of solitude, is actually beneficial for your mental health. In the Sutta there is a verse that says, "Excessive socializing causes emotional fluctuations and depletes resolve. To avoid harm to your mind, walk alone like a rhinoceros horn." A rhinoceros has only one horn, and so do you. You can walk your path alone with steadfastness and self-reliance without seeking any external validation. Don't be overly joyous when praised, nor should you be sad or angry at criticism. Let go of all dependence on others' evaluations. This is the best way for you to discover and align with your inner strength. And simultaneously, occasionally turn off all electronic devices to allow your mind to return to its original state. Gently move your body, regulate your breathing, and temporarily step away from external words, news, and stimuli. At that moment, your soul will return to its natural stillness and solitude that is the deepest rest. And when the soul achieves true rest, we can then focus on quality and meaningful experiences for ourselves. Instead of letting energy be scattered in feelings of envy or anger towards others, slow down a little, don't rush. When we rush, we easily get angry, and the angrier we get, the more frantic we become. Someone once said, "Calm down, don't rush." Yet, often at that moment, we only feel more annoyed, more enraged, and so we continue to live in our own fire of hatred. But if we change the way we receive that message not as a doctrine, but as a gentle reminder to ourselves, just a moment's pause like that, and we will feel our hearts calm considerably and naturally become less impulsive. Zen masters and enlightened beings often live very slowly, slowing down a little to become aware of oneself, slowing down a little to find the balance point within the mind, slowing down a little to soothe all anger with love, slowing down a little to become more clear-headed. When we can do this, we will realize there is nothing left in this world to be angry about.